Howdy YouTube. Been meaning to make this video for a while now, so now is as good a time as ever. I have been a Fuji shooter, as you can tell from my channel, for quite a while. And you know, you take a camera like this is the X-T5. It's a camera that I've stated that I loved, would always own one. I think that I will. It's a great camera. Not long ago, tried the X-H2 and had some glitches with it. So one of the retailers that I bought it from, or the retailer that I bought it from, even though it had the issue, which was obviously not right, wouldn't let me return it without exchanging it. So I picked up this, the X-T5. And in a previous video, I think I said that I almost bought the X-T5. Well, I almost bought it again, but I kind of traded for it. So my intention was to trade for something and then sell it and get out of it. And I shot the X-T5 for a long time. It's a great camera. I can answer any questions you have, you know, about the daily use or whatever. The sensor is great. It's not quite as good when it comes to the higher ISOs, but honestly, it's not bad. I would not buy it, you know, if I was worried about the ISO. But where I am today is I want to compare the Fuji X-T5, this guy, or gal, to this guy, the Nikon ZF. I've also shot Nikon for a long time. And I mean, I find myself going back and forth between these systems all the time, buying and selling, buying and selling. Luckily, I buy most of them used. But today is going to be a comparison between the Fuji X-T5 and the Nikon ZF. I know that one is a crop, one is a full frame. I know it's not an apples to apples comparison, but I think that there are people out there that are deciding between these two cameras, or maybe they own an X-T5 and think, oh, this ZF looks really nice, let me check it out. So let's do this. We're gonna talk about ergonomics, we're gonna talk about lenses, we're gonna talk about colors out of the camera, we're gonna talk about dynamic range. Maybe that's weird, but that's one of the things that stood out to me about these two cameras, so I created a category for it. We're gonna talk about autofocus, we're gonna talk about the overall experience, and then finally, my thoughts and closing. So diving in, ergonomics. The X-T5 ergonomics, in my opinion, are better than the ZF. It is lighter. Now, in fairness, I don't know if I can take this off. This is a grip. I don't know if you can see that. That's a grip that I've added to the X-T5. I actually find the X-T5 to be a little too small. Ironically, let's see if I can get this off here now. It's just this little small rig. Still, there's a great grip and there's a great purchase. But if you notice, like I have big sausage fingers, so two of my fingers take up that area on the camera. Then you move over to the ergonomics of the ZF. There is nothing, absolutely nothing. And when you couple that, this is a brick. I'm talking like, I'm not a small guy. I've lifted some weights in my lifetime. This is not a light camera. Do I love it? Absolutely. I mean, it almost feels, I don't want to say double, but it's 50%, it feels 50% heavier. And maybe it's the lenses or whatever, but this is a noticeable hunk of camera, which ironically I love. It's one of the things I love about it. The more I shoot the ZF, the more the X-T5, which is not a toy, but the more it feels like a toy. I mean, it's just boom, boom, boom. It's like super light. It's like this little, it's like picking up this after shooting the X-T5. When it comes to ergonomics, I have added, is the grip on here? Interesting, I have a grip for this. Where did it go? Or did I not order it? I thought I ordered it. I need to look into that. The grip helps tremendously with the ZF. And honestly, if you're gonna carry it around all day, you're gonna want the grip. It helps a lot, especially if you just are one of the persons that, or one of the people that like walks around and holds it to your side. I carry my cameras in a camera bag, just a Peak design, either a 6 or a 3. And so when I go to take a picture, I pull it out, take the picture, put it back. So it's not a huge deal for me personally to need to be able to walk around with the camera. The Nikon Z6 and Z7 are much better with a much better grip. And of course, the XH line is even better with a grip for that walking around in the hand, if that's what you need. Just know that, when you get that grip, you give up kind of that retro look. So you have to decide what's important to you. So ergonomics, it's close, but I will say that the X-T5 has better ergonomics overall than the ZF, mainly because of weight. I know that I haven't talked about button placement or any of that stuff. I think that you'll get used to either one of those. When I go back and forth, it's funny how using one messes me up on the other, because a punch in on one camera is a completely different button on the other. I overall like the ergonomics and just the use and the layout of the X-T5 more. So your mileage may vary. Moving on, lenses. This is not even close. It's not even close, especially if you value the smaller form factor. But this is the Fuji 27mm on the X-T5. Basically, the smallest lens you can find for the ZF. I know there's a smaller one. There's like a pancake, but supposedly it's horrible. This is the little 40.2. That's not little. Let's see if I can get this in there. That versus that. So if we're just talking about lenses, where I don't have my 33 1.4, the Fuji 33 1.4 and the 18 1.4 WR, those new lenses, are some of the best lenses you'll get on any system, in my opinion. And the 33 1.4 and the 18 1.4, and even though I haven't used the 23 1.4, but I assume it's similar, on the Fuji bodies, especially the X-T5, are spectacular. You will not be dissatisfied with those lenses on those bodies. But again, just comparing these two, this is a very famous or popular lens, the 27. The first time I bought this 40 f2, I forgot what I bought it for, but I immediately either returned it or sold it. I hated this lens. It's like the Fuji 23 f2. Up close and wide open, it's horrible. It's not good. At f2, their f2 up close doesn't exist on this lens. f2 outside of 10 feet, borderline doesn't exist. It's just not good. But where it gets interesting is once you back up or you stop down on the lens, it gets way better, way better. I actually bought the Z51.8S thinking, okay, when I need to take real pictures of my family, or I need that bokeh, or I need that real image quality, I'll put the Z51.8 on the ZF for that purpose. And then when I go to walk around and just take casual pictures, I'll put the 40 f2 back on the ZF. For any owners of the ZF or the Nikon system, or potential owners of the Nikon system, let me tell you that the 40 f2 is so damn close to the 50. I don't care what charts say. I don't care what lens tip says. I think actually lens tip says it's close. But for the vast majority of us, the 40 f2 on the ZF is an amazing lens, amazing lens. It doesn't come off. I mean, this is my lens. This is the lens that stays on this camera. I did buy the 24 to 70 f4. This is a great lens if you need, a little bit closer, a little bit further. And you can get this for like 400 bucks, even less, used. So it's like a lens, might as well have it. I think we were doing a photo shoot for the family and the 50 wasn't working. So I threw the 24 to 70 f4 on there. We were outside, it was perfect, it was group. So I didn't need like this, crazy bokeh. And it did its job. So, but going into lenses, if you look at the entire system, if you don't value compact, then the Nikon lens system is spectacular. The Z lenses are amazing. The Z35 is a great lens. The 50 is a great lens, if you don't mind the size. My favorite lens, honestly, from the Z system is the MC105, the Z MC105 2.8. That lens is nuts. The AF is a little slow if you're wanting to take like portrait photos or something like that, unless you're in a studio, of course. I'm not. But the 105 Z lens it might be my favorite lens. If I stay with the Nikon, which I think I am, I'll probably pick up the 105. But overall, with the Fuji, the 33 1.4, you get the 35 f2, the 50 f2. You get those little bitty Fujicrons. You get the more expensive 33, 18, and 23 1.8 WRs. You know, the 70 to 300 is an amazing lens if you need that longer range. So I think overall, I'll say this, let's caveat. If you value compact size and that is important to you, then Fuji absolutely wins. If you're okay with a little bit bigger lenses, then I think it's neck and neck. I think Fuji still probably has a little bit of an advantage just because of the options, right? But I will say this is a beautiful camera. I'm just talking about the camera body. I love this camera body. I mean, it's classic, it's sleek, it's robust. I honestly think this lens looks horrible on it. Like, I don't like it. I don't like the look. And I think Nikon needs to do a lot better. You released this amazing, beautiful camera. Whose decision was this? I mean, I use it, I love it, right? It gets the job done. It's what I use for it, but it's ugly and it's too big. So anyway, that's my feedback on that lens, but I love the combo. So lenses, another check for Fuji. What's next? Colors. Ooh, it couldn't be more subjective. Colors. I'm gonna start in the opposite direction. If you value true colors, like accurate, what your eye most likely sees, then the Nikon wins hands down. I personally think that when it comes to colors, I would rank the camera systems, and I'm not a pro, right, but I use them a lot. I've used them landscape, mild sports, kid sports. I've used them, you know, family portraits, all that fun stuff, just around the neighborhood. For me, colors, Nikon, Fuji, Canon, Sony. Sony's gotten better, but I think that's how I rank it. I think Nikon has beautiful blues, beautiful yellows. The reds from the Fuji are deeper, and I do like the reds from the Fuji. They're just, I mean, all this obviously can be adjusted in post, but if you're just taking your camera out and shooting, color-wise, if you're looking for what your eye sees, that beautiful blue sky, and you know, maybe an ocean or a cliff or whatever, where we live, we have the ocean and cliffs, the Nikon is going to represent what you see. The Fuji, on the other hand, obviously has the film sims, right? And not only does it have film sims, but it has recipes. Now, the Nikon has film sims, and we'll get to that. This video, maybe it's gonna be too long, but hopefully it's helpful. With Fuji, you get, you know, classic chrome, you know, subdued, beautiful colors. You get classic negative. You get, you know, the Acros black and white. And you also get the recipes. There's recipes like Vibrant Arizona. I love Vibrant Arizona. Vintage bronze. You know, for a certain look, vintage bronze just, I don't know, I love it, right? And I don't have those with the Nikon. So if I have to pick one of these, if I pick the Nikon, I give those up. Now, I will say that the files and the colors of the Nikon are more malleable, if I'm saying that right, in Lightroom or Capture One. And I feel that I can manipulate the colors way better on the Nikon. Also, there's this profile called Dream, and I don't know what I would compare it to on the Fuji, but what's cool is you can shoot in Dream, you can shoot RAW and JPEG, and then you can bring it into Lightroom, and it allows you to adjust the intensity of that profile. So it would be like shooting in classic negative, and it's like made the sky too white and everything else too contrasty, and you say, let's chill that out a little bit. Nikon allows you to do that, which I kind of like. And it's got a bunch of other ones that are, maybe you'll like, maybe you won't. I should add, even though we're talking about colors, the black and white from the Nikon, it's got your standard black and white. Let me see if I can look this up. And it's got what's called rich, where is it at? Deep tone monochrome. Chef's kiss. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And then there's a flat monochrome, and then there's just monochrome. And I do like that I can just switch. Like if I'm in shooting color, I can literally just switch to the black and white, switch off the black and white. I love that. I know you can set shortcuts and stuff for the Fuji, even for all your profiles. I love being able to click down, a shortcut down, and choose all my recipes, my custom settings. That's amazing. When it comes to colors, again, this is going to be what you're looking for. Are you looking for that artistic look? Are you looking for film simulations? Are you looking for that Fuji look? Then obviously the X-T5. You also gain, in my opinion, more options when it comes to the recipes with the Fuji. So if you want like a palette or a potpourri of colors, whatever the phrase would be, Fuji's your camera. The colors are beautiful out of the Fuji, absolutely, hands down. I think they're more beautiful out of the Nikon. For me, what I found that I like the most is I like the accuracy of the Nikon. I think it, and we'll get to this later, I think it meters and reflects colors or shows colors way better than the Fuji. The Fuji, you have to want that look, honestly. I would not use the Fuji. Ironically, I've owned Fujis and Nikons, and I've owned Fujis more than I've owned Nikons, but somehow, most of the times we've taken family photos, I've somehow owned a Nikon, and I've been very glad, because when I go back and look at those images and the skies and the skin tones and the colors on the shirts, perfect with the Nikon. I love it. So I'm not saying one beats the other. I'm going to say it's preference when it comes to these two. Moving on to dynamic range. This one's not close. And it's kind of cheat mode because we know that the ZF, this guy or gal, is a full frame camera. It is definitely bigger. Let's see if I can do this. And heftier than the X-T5. And I mean, I've shot these side by side by side by side. My son has an appointment on Thursdays, and while he's in that, I will go out in the street and I was taking the shot side by side, in the shadows, in the light, everything. And consistently, 3 times, because it's that big of a deal, the Nikon exposed the scene way better than the Fuji. And it's honestly, it's like it didn't come down to, you would think like the dynamic range rating on the Nikon is, I don't know what the ratings are, like 24 on the Nikon, and it's a 21 on the Fuji. And you're like, oh, well, they're close. They're not. They're really not close. When I take images, and maybe I can post some in a short or another video or something, because I've got the comparisons, but when I take images of dynamic scenes of, you know, say curtains with the light coming through in the middle, the Fuji just wants to like come in and boom, like just overpower everything. And it's like, cranks up the ISO. I shoot an auto ISO. I do. I have an indoor and outdoor auto ISO settings, both. But when I let the camera do its work with the metering of the scene, the Fuji comes in and wants to light everything up. And I've tried the different meterings, and yes, you can do spot metering and all that stuff. But again, this was a side-by-side, how I use the camera comparison. The Fuji just keeps trying to overpower a scene. It's like blowing out skies. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? It's like, did I never notice this before? I mean, I know, you know, you can shoot stops under. I actually started shooting almost a stop lower on the Fuji, which is weird because it's the crop sensor. You would think that I would need, anyway, maybe I'm bad at math. The Nikon ZF metering on scenes of dynamic lighting is superb. Oh my gosh. If there is a reason to buy the ZF outside of the autofocus, which we'll get to, it is absolutely the dynamic range and the metering of this camera. Like if you're cool with going in and playing with the shadows and doing all this stuff, I'm sure you can get it close. Like I've taken pictures of, you know, like landscape and street shots in Los Angeles in my truck, you know, it's a bright red truck and all this stuff. And I can make the Fuji get there. I can get it there in post. And it's work. I feel like deja vu here for some reason. I say this before, but OMG, this straight out of camera, and it's not just the colors. I guess we've talked about the colors. It's where the shadows are allowed to be shadows and where the light is allowed to be light and where it's not blown out. Again, I'm just gonna end this segment. If there is one reason to pick the ZF over the X-T5, it is the metering and the dynamic range of the ZF. I don't know if that gets talked about in other reviews. It's not a spec. I don't even know what the ratings are. I can just tell you I've taken thousands of shots with each of these. And it's not a one-off thing. I mean, I also tested at high ISOs, and the ability of the Nikon to just, it's almost like it's super chill. It's like, hey, I got this, relax. Whereas the Fuji comes in like, I got it, you know, and it's like, light. I don't know, I don't get it. I mean, it literally made me question whether something was up with this Fuji. It is done so well, and it plays into the colors, because what happens is when this overpowers a scene, you lose colors. I've taken pictures of, like, for example, a leather couch, a nice brown leather couch, and you lose the brown with this. Whereas with the Nikon, I can see this beautiful brown leather because it's not overpowering the scene, even when I stop down. I took a picture of my truck in a shadow, where there's part of it in the shadow, part of it in the light. And the Fuji, again, overpowering the scene, lighting everything up, and I felt like I lost the color, the deep red from the truck, versus the ZF did it like, hey, we got this, no problem. So dynamic range, not close, ZF. This is gonna be a 30-minute video. I'm so sorry, but this is good information for those out there considering it. We're gonna move on to AF. You know what, we can make this segment close. ZF, it's not close. They say that this is like the Z8. I haven't used the Z8. All I know is that I have sold Nikons because the AF is so bad. When I take pictures of my kids, I want to be able to like put it, have back button focus. I want to put it in like eye detect, hold it down like a Sony, right? That's what I want. I want a Sony A7 IV experience with Nikon. Never had it, right? Never had it. This is the X-T5. It's like the XH2. It is not like the XH2S. It's like the X-T4. This much better. The AF, this is good. It's not great. It will absolutely show you that it's getting, it will show you that it's getting the eye. It's not getting the eye most of the time. If you're looking for something for moving objects, sports, this is not your camera. I took this with a 70-300, and I swear I tried every single setting I could to take pictures of my boys playing tennis and pickleball. I felt like I did not know how to use a camera. The focus was that bad. It was a joke with this. The AF, if you don't buy this for the dynamic range, you buy this camera for the AF. It is, again, I've not used a Z8, I've not used a Z9, that's different money. This is like a $2,000 camera. Those are like, what, $5,000 cameras, whatever. The AF in this is amazing, and it's accurate, and it works with the 40, it works with the 50, it works with the zoom. You can trust the eye autofocus for pets. You can trust the eye autofocus for humans. There is a auto mode, and it works for both. Cats, dogs, I don't know about trains. The AF in the ZF is what I've been wanting from Nikon for years. If you left Nikon because you wanted that Sony A7 IV experience of autofocus, it's back. It's here. I wouldn't say back, because it wasn't there. The ZF autofocus beats the X-T5 autofocus, and again, it's not close. Not close at all. I should write down who's winning, right? So let's see, Ergo, we got the Fuji. Lenses, I'm gonna go Fuji. Colors, whatever. Range, Nikon. Autofocus, Nikon. Next category, experience. Your mileage may vary. There's no way to do this segment. I mean, you just gotta think about, do you wanna walk around the neighborhood and hold the camera in your hand? Then you're gonna like the X-T5. Do you carry a bag and you're okay with pulling it out, taking shots? Then you won't mind the ZF. It is heavy. It is absolutely heavy. But I will say this, you gotta go hold it. You gotta go check it out. If you can get to a store, definitely go hold it in your hand, because it's a different experience. It is, again, like, I'm not a small dude. And because I know you post online like, oh, the ZF is heavy. It's like, oh, do you even lift, bro? Like, really? Yes, I can lift. It's heavy. It is significant in your hand. Like, there's no walking around like this. You can probably see my fingers, like, strained. Like, I put the strap on like that, and I carry it like that, but I often shoot it like this. Experience? Hell, how do we even define experience? You take the ergos, the lenses, the colors, but just the walking around experience. I love the Nikon, I really do. I don't mind having it in a camera bag. I don't mind reaching in. It is so well built, and the buttons and the dials, the eye menu. I feel like everybody says that the ISO button doesn't work. I live in auto ISO. They're like, okay, well, why did you buy a camera with dials? Seriously, why do we buy these? None of us buy these for the absolute perfect function of everything, because it looks cool as hell. And it had great AF and has amazing dynamic range. That's why I bought it. Probably why I'm gonna keep it. So experience, they're both amazing. They're honestly both amazing. But again, it goes back to, if you've left Nikon you didn't leave Nikon for dynamic range or colors, most likely. But if you left Nikon for autofocus, come on home. I kid. My Adam Sandler moment. We love his movies. In closing, I'm trying to think if there's anything I forgot. They're both amazing cameras. You know what, we'll do a size perspective. So if this is the ZF, I don't know if you can see that. Pretend this is an X100V, because that's a comparison that people say. They're like, oh, well, I can't decide X100V or ZF. Dude, they're not close. This is kind of close to an X100V. It's a little bit smaller. Dude, this is not an X100V. Like, I'm gonna hold this here for a minute. The ZF is not Nikon's X100V. It is bigger, it is beefier, it is heavier. It's better. It's like way better in my opinion. I've had a lot of X100Vs. Feel free to go pay, you know, well, it's getting better, more for that. But in closing, I do want to say that if you're thinking, hey, I've been with Fuji, I love the 27mm, I don't want to switch, I don't want to give up that lens, the 40f2, if you don't mind it being a little bit bigger, is as good or better than the Fuji 27mm. And I've shot the OG and the weather-resistant versions with the aperture dial, whatever. The 40mm, I'll say that again, the 40mm f2, cheap $200 lens or whatever, from Nikon is as good or better in basically every measurement than the Fuji 27mm. That's a big close to me, because that lens, lenses have been with me to Italy. I've had this lens, I mean, the AF broke, it's known for breaking. The AF in these lenses, if you touch this at all, it's known for breaking the AF system. And pro tip, if you call Fuji, they're gonna want like 400 bucks to repair the AF unit in that lens. Take it to like Sammy's. Sammy's has some contract. Sammy's got it done for like 177. So I'm never gonna sell that lens. That lens has, you know, it's got a history. And so I'm gonna keep it, but I guess that's it. You know, we've gone through the ergonomics. I think the X-T5 is an easier camera to hold. But the layout and the EVF and everything of the ZF is absolutely amazing. The lenses nod at this point goes to Fuji. Well done, Fuji. Nikon, what the hell are you doing? We need smaller lenses. Colors, again, subjective, dynamic range. It's not close. ZF wipes the floor with the X-T5 in dynamic range. In autofocus, thank you, Nikon. Finally, thank you for giving us good autofocus. It's so good. So I hope this helps. If you have questions, I'm under 30. I know these videos are long, but it's not often that I do like a full comparison. If you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer questions. I just thought that this would be a good comparison to do. Hell, I know I've been trying to decide between these two cameras, and if you want to know what I'm keeping, it's hard to sell the X-T5. I'm not gonna lie. It's really hard to sell the X-T5. And it's hard to sell because of the 33 1.4. That lens is so good. It's way better, in my opinion, than the Nikon Z50 1.8. And it's not close. I was just, they say it's one of those magical lenses. I didn't see the magic. It's not like maybe this much magic, not enough. But I couldn't decide, but I'm keeping the Nikon. I'm keeping the Nikon. It's not as easy to carry, but I use a bag. The natural colors that come from it are absolutely beautiful. The blues, the greens, the yellows. The yellows, real quick in testing, this was Grey Poupon, and this was French's. My son has like this color book, and I was doing comparisons in good light at different ISOs. I was shocked. Like in standard profile Fuji, Grey Poupon, yellow, normal yellow. Anyway, so I hope this has helped. And if if you've made it this far, thank you for watching. And again, if you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. Take care.